Imagine a world without numbers. Imagine a world with nothing but numbers. Either way, it would be kind of impossible, wouldn't it? Numbers have become quite an essential part of our daily lives. But what is a number anyways? A number is a mathematical object that we use to count, measure, and label. And as I was saying before, numbers have become quite an essential part of our daily basis. We use them in many fields of studies. We use them in statistics, we use them in science, and we use them in economics. We tend to ask each other numerical questions. What was the mark of your midterm yesterday? How many courses are you taking this semester? What was the score of your football match yesterday? But there are just some things that, even with these numbers, as useful as they are, cannot tell us. Let us see why. Allow me to present to you my university, Nova School of Business and Economics, in no other way than with these numbers themselves. As you can see, our courses are 100% taught in English. We have over 200 partnerships with international institutions, and we are ranked the top 30 business schools by the Financial Times. Furthermore, if you visit our website, you're greeted with this data. As I was saying, we have over 3,000 students from 50 different nationalities, making 40% of our community international, 52% of which are males and 48% are females. Interestingly, the title of this data set is called "The Numbers Say It All." But do they really? Do this number truly capture what it's like to be part of our community? Are there perhaps some things that these numbers ignore and leave out? Let's see if these numbers indeed tell you what it's like to be at Nova SBE. Take, for example, this young lady right here. Her name is Joanna, and her number, 0.05. Doesn't really make much sense, does it? Doesn't really tell you a lot about her. But allow me to elaborate on how this number relates to her. When Joanna first tried to enter Nova SBE, she couldn't because she failed to have the score required in her mathematics exam by just a few points, 0.05 points to be exact. She took that following year working hard and studying hard, and retook the exam once again. Now she's a second-year student at our school. Does the number 0.05 tell you anything about her determination? Does it tell you anything about her hard work and how, even though she failed once, she wasn't afraid to try it again? Or this gentleman right here. His name is Leonardo, and his number, 9,000. Again, 9,000. How does that relate to him? Well, here's how. He is an international student from South Africa who moved here all by himself to study at Nova SBE. He's struggling from the transition and from having to leave behind his family and friends, 9,000 kilometers away, back in his country. But he knows he has to push through because he wants to go back one day and know that it was all worth it. That's the number 9,000. As big as it is, it doesn't even fully come to capturing his hopes and dreams. Or this lady right here, Mrs. Ledinia, and her number, 16. You may be asking, what's that number to her? Well, here is how the number 16 means to her. She works at our canteen. She's always serving and smiling while to the people who comes in for a small coffee break or to refuel themselves with a hot meal of lunch. She's happy with the work she does. She loves getting to talk to new people every day. But if there was one thing that she loves more than anything in this world, it would be her 16-month-old daughter, whom she described as the greatest gift God has given her. Now, the number 16 by itself, did it tell you anything about her true love for her child? In fact, does any number able to tell you the love that a mother has for her child? Now, there are many more of these stories, but of course, not all of them are tied around with a number. And that's exactly my point. Numbers, as great as they are as telling us quantitative data, they lack the ability to tell us the qualitative ones. And that's what Late Night Stories is all about. Late Night Stories is a Facebook page in which I have created in an attempt to show the other side of people, the side that is almost always hidden away simple facts and figures. I have independently created the Facebook page, and I say independently because while this might not necessarily be the kind of stories that my university would want to publish up high on their websites or print them out and on their brochures, these are the stories that lie behind those numbers. And it's not as hard as you think. I go around and walk around in our faculty corridor trying to get to know people. I try to talk to them and ask them what their story is like. And it doesn't matter what their student number is. It doesn't matter whether they're year one or a professor. It doesn't matter what was the score of their last exam. What matters is that they don't let those numbers define and label them. The following slides are just to show you some of the aspects of our community that mere numbers cannot tell you about, but Late Night Stories can. It's about the professors and their teaching experience and what their lives are like outside of school, whether it's Professor Bernardo, whose hobby of biking ever since he was young, or Professor Maria Helena and her gratefulness of having another child, or Professor Carmo and Carla, whose only hope is to teach their students to make the right decisions, not only in their microeconomics class, but in life in general. Or our teaching assistant, Professor Inez and Professor Mariana, who are beginning their new career path. It's about the faculty staffs and what they enjoy most about their lives, both inside and outside of their uniform. Whether it's Mr. Cesar, who shares with us his advice of having to try to live happily every single day. Or Mrs. Cecilia, who from her own experience reminds people to keep fighting hard and working hard for their own well-being. Or Mr. Carlos and Mrs. Lorenza, who shares with us the secret to a happy life, which is to always remain on the positive side and always keep smiling even when facing problems. It's about the friendships that were created here, not only between students and students, nor between staff and staff, but between those two groups, whether it's Mrs. Fatima, who had worked as a librarian for quite a few years, but has always tried to keep in touch with the students that have already graduated from here, whenever she gets a chance. Or Professor Chuong, who puts himself out there for his students to make his Calculus 1 class more understandable and more entertaining. Or this group of freshmen over here, Francisco, Jose, and Miguel, a group of freshmen who have kept each other's good company, whether in studying or in partying, university life, right? And who says friendship has to be created ever since the first year of school? Look in these second-year students, Francisco and Miguel, who have only met just a few minutes before this picture was taken. And they describe how meeting new people is always a great experience because you get to hear each other's stories. Or Francisco and his group of friends who are enjoying some pizza for his birthday, even though it's next week, because to him, they don't need an excuse to hang out together. It's about the personal challenges of the people, whether it's Anna, who even though she's not doing as well as she hoped she would, still remains positive and continues her best work. Or Mrs. Fatoumata, who has to work hard because she has to support for the tuition fee of her sister, but she's happy to do that. She wants her sister to pursue in what she loves. Or Julio, who new semester awaits for him in Germany, where he hopes to learn new things as opposed to what he is already used to. Or Ricardo, who has recently graduated from his master's, and he's eager to share his experience as a student to his new students as he becomes a teaching assistant. Or Raquel, who is working hard to complete her bachelor's degree. She's missing only one course, linear algebra. It's about missing home and your loved ones. Whether it's Lara, who after passing a tough semester is looking forward to have a Christmas dinner with her aunt and her sister. Or Miguel, who misses his home where it's much more quiet and peaceful, an environment that Lisbon doesn't have to offer. Or Maria, who has found some comfort from having to leave her friends and families back in Azores by making new friends here, to whom she describes as to be her family here in Lisbon. Or Miguel, whose two best friends have left for an exchange semester, but even though he's lonely without them, he tries to keep in touch with them every day and ask them about their stories. The same thing happened to Federico and Pedro, whose group of friends are also away for an exchange semester. Sure, they are lonely because they don't have their full company, but they have also managed to make some new friends and new acquaintances. And there are many other more stories that mere numbers cannot explain. And I would love to continue to share them with you. But of course, it wouldn't be the same as if you were to go and read the stories themselves. To which if you simply type late night stories on your Facebook feed, you will be warmly greeted with these stories. And if you enjoy reading them, I would truly appreciate if you would leave a kind light on our page. There has been quite a few feedback regarding the page. It always cheers me up to know that there are people out there who appreciates the work that I'm doing. And it's always good to know that there are people out there who cares enough to look beyond the numbers that stand in front of us. When I first started creating this page, I thought to myself, if I have a story to share, others must have one too. And let's do this one last time, I promise. But my number, it would have been 0. That's because when I first moved here to study all by myself, I had 0 people whom I could share my stories with. I had 0 people whom I could listen to their stories. It was a hard time. I struggled with my courses. I had some family issues. And what made it worse is that I couldn't tell anyone about this. Not to demand them for a solution or anything, but for them to just listen. Not to get too far off from the topic, but the point remains that you shouldn't let any of these numbers count, measure, or label you. That's not their job. Not to mention that they don't do a good job at that. So then think of it this way. The next time you see someone and you're having conversation, I invite you to ask questions that focus on aspects of their lives that they cannot simply answer in numbers. Don't ask them what was the score of their midterm. Ask them how their midterm was. And if they struggled, ask them if they would like to study together sometimes. Why be interested in how many courses they are taking? ask them what is their favorite subject and why they enjoy it so much. Sure, you can ask them what's the score of your football match yesterday, but wouldn't it be better if you asked them, how was your football game yesterday? And maybe we can go play sometimes. And there are so many other questions that focus on a person's quality of life and not just the quantity of their lives. Because at the end of the day, would you want people to think of you as a percentage? As a simple figure? As just another number? Thank you.